Thank you. Thank you for coming down in this kind of weather, although this weather is great. You should be in the Midwest by me. It's been like minus 20 below and constant snowstorms. It's nice to see the sun. I always appreciate coming back to New York. It's a great place to be. Thank you, B&H and Westcott, for bringing me in. And what I'd like to share with you today is my approach to lighting. A little bit about my background is I'm a photojournalist. I was one of the staff photographers at the Chicago Sun-Times for 15 years. You may have heard about the Sun-Times recently. They are the first major newspaper to completely fire the entire photo staff. So not a good thing. But it was a great place for me to learn because it forced you to think on your feet. And lighting is a big key to that. A lot of photojournalists, at least when I was there, did not believe in flash, did not believe in lighting. And I learned an experience early on that really changed my mind to that. So I got sent to photograph this, a single room occupancy large fire in a building. It was crazy. They were dropping people out of the third story window, tossing their cats out. I mean, there was amazing images to be made. But I thought, I'm a photojournalist, I'm gonna be like my mentors and I'm not gonna use a flash. And I'm gonna stand back and I'm gonna get these amazing pictures with fire flames coming out the windows. But then when I ran up really close to get this picture of a fireman lowering down a person, all I got was a big blur. And I said from that moment on, I will never not know how to use my flash because there is a time when you're gonna need it. So fast forward, I start getting a lot of business assignments for the paper. I start getting a lot of celebrities that come to town for the paper. And those type of images, you really do need to light them. So I'm going back to old school with medium format, lighting, Polaroid, things of that nature. But the techniques and everything that I'm going to share with you are what I used then. Technology now has evolved to a point to allow you unlimited creative control for quality of light by using Speedlites. So back then, I got tired of hauling around. We used to have these Brana colors. It was in a huge case. Everything was very heavy. And if I was going to light it, you almost needed an assistant just to lug this case around the city. It was a pain in the butt. So I put together my own lighting kit, which were small light stands like we have here, a few 283s, 285s by Vivitar. You guys remember those? Yeah. Everything was plugged in with like a 50-foot sync cable because if you used an optical slave, and if anybody else was photographing in the room, your lights would go off too. So my editors started taking note. They're like, hey, he's doing pretty good. How are you lighting this stuff? You never check out the kit. I'm like, well, I got these small flashes, a couple light stands, a few shoot-through umbrellas. You know, back then we would cut the bottom off of liquid soap or a quart milk jug, duct tape it to your Vivitar flash. You know, it looked like Herman Munster, Frankenstein, but who cares? It's kind of the predecessor to the light sphere, but it gave nice quality of light. And we kept graduating on from there. So now, I left the paper in 2004. I got burned down on bad news and primarily photograph weddings and events. So my wife and I have our own brand, Bob and Dawn Davis, photographyanddesign.com, and we do high-end weddings and events all over the world. We've done weddings for Eva Longoria, your leading scorer, Carmelo Anthony. I've photographed his wedding, Eddie Murphy. Do lots of high-end, high-profile events. In that arena, you really are responsible for catching people in their best light. And I'm all about light. As a photographer, we cannot practice our craft without light. So be it available light, window light, a flashlight, speed light, strobes, I don't care. I'll use it all to get the image. So if I'm in an environment, you know, some of these pictures here on our blog, look, my goal and technique is to not make my light look obvious, but to bring that sparkle and glow. These are all lit, you know, all by using speed lights and strobes. And I'm going to go through my gear and my techniques and what I use. And I love speed lights because I'm used to working solo. I really don't have an assistant. So I could go anywhere in the world with 5 speed lights, a small lighting bag with a couple light modifiers, and there isn't much that I can't make a good picture on, right? I know I'm going to come back with a good image. My photo editor at the Chicago Sun-Times, Bob Katalik, old school guy used to shooting things with a 4x5 speed graphic, gave me my first assignment. And he said, kid, come back with a good picture or don't come back at all. And he really did mean it. So I embraced that. I'm not going to come back and say the light was bad. I can't come back and say, you know, it was too dark, it was too brown, it was too orange. No, I got to come back with an image. Many of the events I photographed get published the very next day. We did the bachelorette's wedding, and we had to turn over 150 files to People magazine the very next day. There's no time to go through and adjust your files and edit them overnight to provide 100 files for them. You take them right out of camera, because if you're diligent at the point of capture of getting the best possible color, exposure, and lighting, I'm confident on handing my files off immediately. Plus, I believe in pre-touching instead of retouching, meaning get it right in the camera, because I hate spending time on the computer. I'd rather be out and about. So let's go through some of the images, and we'll go through my gear at first, and I'll go through an outline of that. And then we'll take questions after each section, right? So let me pop these up. Now, gear's really important. Again, because I believe if you're photographing a wedding, you're photographing someone's portraits, if you're photographing your own children, you don't get a second opportunity to capture that most important image. So I truly believe in getting the best gear that you can afford. It's imperative. You can't go out and photograph someone's event, and if you happen to have to go outside, like the past 2 weddings I've done in Chicago, it's been snowing, sleeting, freezing rain. If I went out there with, let's say, a Rebel, it would not hold up in the weather, and I'm photographing outside in the weather. So I use all Canon 1 series bodies. I currently shoot with 2 Canon 1DX. I still have a 1D Mark IV, because they're solid, they're rugged. I mean, I could shoot in 20 below zero, which I was the other day, get ice on them, and they take a licking and keep on ticking. I don't leave home with less than 5 Speedlites, because I know what I could do at 5. I could come in and I can light a venue with 3 Speedlights. I could still be doing my portraits and detail shots with the various light modifiers with other 2. So it allows me the freedom and flexibility to create the light I want. And I carry a variety of lenses, from zoom lenses to fixed focal length lenses, prime lenses. And everything for me is a constant aperture, 2.8. I dislike a variable aperture because I want my lenses to be bright and sharp. So everything is 2.8 or faster. Right? Plenty of CF cards. Rechargeable batteries are very, very important. One of the things that I really believe in, as I shared with you, is getting it right in camera. And so many photographers I hear from rely on the LCD screen to judge the quality of their image. And really what you have to do is go by the histogram. Everybody familiar with the histogram? Yeah, how to read it? It's kind of like a stock chart, but it's really giving you the universal language of the image. So if you read your histogram properly, you can get excellent exposure and excellent color right in camera. Oftentimes people will look at the image on the back of their camera and say, oh, that looks great. And then you get back, you download it, and you're using your image browsing software, and it might have a color shift. It might be too cool, too warm, or underexposed, or overexposed. The histogram gives you a universal language that is the same on the back of the camera as it is in Photoshop, as it is in Lightroom, as it is in Aperture. It's universal. So the right side of the histogram is your highlights. The left side is 0 for shadows. My criteria is that I have information from left to right. In a real world environment, there is no bell curve perfect histogram, right? As long as I have information from left to right, I know I'm going to have a properly exposed image. Same being for the color with the red, green, and blue value. If the histogram, the mountains, are pretty much in near alignment, I know I'm going to get a good color. And for me, color is a warm, true flesh tone and a nice neutral white. So by having the red, green, and blue channels pretty equal, I know my color is going to be great. I shoot in every mode, every preset that the camera has to offer. It just depends on the time that I'm going to be using it. More often than not, I shoot in Kelvin. Is everybody familiar with Kelvin? It's the precise color temperature. So I could dial in my color temperature by taking the live view of the camera, and I could actually see live the color in the histogram. I don't even have to take a test shot. And I could get the color exactly where I want it. I could get the exposure exactly where I want it. Make one frame, review it, and then I shoot. I was watching the Super Bowl. Anybody watch the Super Bowl this weekend? I saw one of the players come in, he comes in, makes a touchdown, and the photographer got a shot, and he's chimping right away. And the guy is still celebrating like this, going crazy, and I'm like, come on, quit chimping, you know. Shoot through, make the shot. If you've already got your shot dialed in, your exposure, your color, don't stop shooting, and I see that a lot. I see a lot of photographers, even people that shoot with me at a wedding, second photographers. I tell them, if I catch you chimping while there's something going on, I'm going to tape the back of your camera. Because you should be able to dial in your exposure and color one time and then stay in the moment and be present so that you're not missing an important image. So you want to follow through and shoot through. So once I get my settings dialed in per scene, I never check it again. Pay attention to what I'm doing and be present in the moment. As I shared, I use the Canon 1DX, and then these are the tools of choice for me for lighting. I love flash, I love strobes, I love continuous light, but for what I do, these are small, portable. I could roll in with my Think Tank International Airport Extreme, 5 Speedlights, transmitters, 2 bodies, few lenses. Everything I need is in this bag. I don't need a whole nother bag for strobes and other lighting accessories. So what's great now is their wireless communication built in. I'm no longer dependent on line of sight. So I can put my Speedlights even outside this glass window and make it look like sunlight streaming in and control them wirelessly from my camera because they have the radio transmission built in. So it's been a real game changer. And this is what's really unique, is you have the ability to put any Speedlight in any mode and turn them on or off right from camera. So if I set up 3, 5 Speedlights in an environment and I want to change any one of them, I could go to that light and say, let's turn off the backlight, or let's put the B light in manual mode. Let's leave the C light in ETTL. So your creativity is endless, and the control that you have over your Speedlights right from camera is endless. Gives you great opportunities. As I shared with you, everything rolls in with me so that me and my gear are never separated. If I land somewhere, I can always pick up a change of clothes. I can always, get a new toothbrush, but I have to be with my gear. Everything else goes into my computer bag, which is like my digital darkroom that travels with me. So I take my laptop, a multiple card reader before I leave any event, especially if I'm traveling. I download the cards to 2 hard drives, and I also carry a backup hard drive that's my system drive, because I'm always under the assumption not when is it going to fail, but I know it's going to fail, so I'm being prepared. It's not if, it's when it's going to fail. So if my computer goes down, I could run and rent a new laptop, plug in my bootable drive, and I have my system backup that I'm used to operating from. So again, it goes back to that analogy, you can't publish an excuse. There's no excuses for not getting the job done. And it's part of my core beliefs is to always be prepared. To do a portrait anywhere, I could do high key, I could do low key, I could do everything I want through the use of Speedlights and light modifiers. So I'll share with you when we do the shooting demo, my favorite lighting kit is the Apollo by Westcott, is a medium softbox, and then the Halo, which is a shoot-through umbrella. And what I like most about them is they're small, they travel well, and then they set up off of an umbrella shaft. So everything sets up and folds down rapidly. And it's lightweight, and I get excellent quality of light. Not so much quantity of light, but quality of light. That's what I'm striving for. So this is the Apollo, external battery, Speedlights inside, and this is why you really need some type of radio communication, because once you get the Speedlight inside a device like this, line of sight communication is no longer going to be possible. So if you're using Nikon Speedlights, you need to find an alternative such as a radio popper or Pocket Wizard or some other means of communicating with your Speedlights in order to control them inside these type of light modifiers. And this is the Halo, which is a shoot-through umbrella. And what's different from this than any other shoot-through umbrella is the backing. Because we're using Speedlites, we want to harness and contain as much energy as possible, since they're only roughly 50 to 60 watt-seconds. So the halo has a silver backing on it, so you don't lose any light reflecting off the front surface. Any bounce back is then harnessed by the silver interior and then pushed forward. Very good use of light. This is the rapid box, so that's what you can see set up here already. It has an amazing quality of light, which can be changed up by adding the deflector dish to give you the quality of light such as a beauty dish. And you can also put a diffuser over it as well to soften the light and to soften the specularity. And we're going to shoot with all these light modifiers this afternoon. So the Speedlight mounted inside, and we're good to go. So what type of photography does everybody do in here? Somebody? How many people do weddings? Handful? How many do corporate? How many do portraits? Handful, right? So Speedlights are great for all of the above. I'm going to share with you here a corporate shoot. You know, I shoot it all. My background in, as I said, working for a newspaper, I'm used to walking in every morning and getting an assignment. You don't know where the day is going to take you, and you just have to be prepared for that. So these are high-key, on-location portraits I did for a corporate shoot. You walk in, and you got to kind of photograph these people quickly. They're a limited amount of time that they give you. So I did the staff at this office. Their top executives walked in, myself, 5 Speedlights, a pop-up white background, just like you see here, and we dialed it all in. But the quality of light looks like we're, working strobes or Kino flows or anything else. But this is all using small portable Speedlights controlled from camera. Now when I'm doing portraits like this, I do everything in manual mode. There's no sense in using ETTL because I'm fixed, the light position is fixed, and the subject is fixed. Remember I said ETTL works off of a pre-flash. The flash goes out, it reflects off the tonality, and comes back. In a high-key situation where my background is going to be white and someone comes in with a dark suit, well, it's going to try and average those tones out to 18% gray. You may or may not get the exact result you want, and you will have variations frame to frame to frame. What I want when you see frame to frame to frame, except for those sample photos, is consistency. Now these are all out of camera files. I didn't want to go through and retouch and tweak anything. I want to show you how I capture it. So great quality of light, excellent sharpness. You could see the main light there. This is an Apollo orb for the main light. It's a 48-inch, almost octabank quality of light, but it's one Speedlight within it. And I'm shooting everything for 0 ambient light, so 2/50th of a shutter speed at f8, right? I want eyes to nose in focus. So you could do it vertical, horizontal, bring them in, next, 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 right? And you could create beautiful images right out of camera. So here's where I had to photograph. It's a conference room, heavy dark paneling. I roll in with my rolling bag over here. That's for just my light stands and light modifiers. Here's my camera bag for my Speedlights. And my main light, here's that 43-inch Apollo. And again, I love the Apollo line for the ease of use. So, and I didn't set these up on purpose because I want you to not take my word for it, but to actually see how easy they set up. There's an umbrella shaft in here. No speed ring needed, right? So when you're traveling on location and you want just yourself, it's easy to set it up. And you could get great quality of light out of these. So 1 Speedlight, 2 Speedlights, 3 Speedlights, whatever you need. But the ease of use in setting it up is rapid and quick. So I could do this myself. So there's our backdrop, a white pop-up backdrop. Now I used 5 Speedlights. What I did is I used 2 on the background. Let's see, where's the other one? I think I have another one that shows the entire set. So in this one you could kind of see it. I have a bottom fill, which is the Apollo. The main light is the orb. I have 2 halos for the background to even illumination. and then I have one light from the bottom. So here's the evolution of light, we'll call it. So first I want to light it up and make sure I have even light on the background. So I took one shot of just the illumination of the background. Now, when you're looking at this image, the way you know, as you were asking about a flash meter, if I have a properly exposed background or not, is I have a nice, sharp edge around the subject. If my background was too bright, this edge would become diffused and milky. And that's okay if that's the look you're going for. But these were going to be professional, corporate, on their website, newsletter, things of that nature. So we wanted a nice defined edge. So I get my background first, dial it in. It was somewhere around half power. Okay? And he's about 4 feet from the background, so we're not getting bounce back off of the background onto him. So we have a nice defined sharp edge. Then I want to determine my camera left fill light on his head. So I have another speed light there. That's just one speed light off the camera left. And then we do camera right to fill in on the subject. Now this is separate from the background. Okay? And then we bring in the main light, which is the Apollo orb. It's like a 43-inch octabank, and you could see the light reflecting in his eye. That's just the one octabank, the orb. It's almost octagon shaped. So one light is really nice, but look at that white background without any illumination on it. It is gray. He's properly exposed. So we kill that light and we turn on the fill light from the bottom, which is the Apollo softbox, the normal medium softbox we have here. So that's just for the fill underneath, so we don't have any hard shadows. That by itself is pretty ugly light. Now we turn them all on. We bring up the front light, so we have the bottom fill, because when you look in the eyes, you could see the reflection. There's the Apollo filling from the bottom softbox, and then the Apollo orb is the main in the light, and then we turn them all on. So you've got your background lights, side light, fill light, and the main light. But it's not washed out with light, so we still have shape and we still have contour. It's just not flat. I don't like even light. I want to have a little bit of modeling, a little bit of shadows. So really easy, quick setup for a corporate shoot. Okay, so let's get out into the field. So this is kind of where the rubber meets the pavement, so to speak. This is completely different. So this is the environment. It's in Gary, Indiana. It's an old Methodist church that's been vacant for about 25 years. So it's a lot of decay. Still a cool environment to shoot in. In one area, they have this old auditorium. And I was looking up at the stage and I said, wow, that's a projection booth. I wonder if I can make it look like there's a projector in there, right? So start digging out your speed lights, pop them in. So I made one speed light, manual mode, with a blue gel, dead center, to give you that projector bulb effect. And then I used two other speed lights with purple and blue gels to get some spill out the side, right? So it's a really nice effect. So this is what I start seeing in my mind's eye, the way my imagination runs. So then we bring the model in, and I bring one light off to the side for her, one main speed light off to the side using a snoot. We're just going to take a device to shape the light and hold it confined as a snoot so that we could get the light and illuminating her face. So I asked her to stand right in front of the blue speed light to give it the effect like the projector bulb is behind her. The background lights are in manual mode because I'm photographing right into them. If they were in any type of automatic mode, such as ETTL or automatic or things of that nature, when you photograph into them, because the camera and the flash communicate, they would shut down. It would say too bright, and it would shut off your lights. By putting them in manual mode, the camera just treats them as existing light. My front light on her is in ETTL mode. So now she can move all around within that space, and I could determine through flash exposure compensation either up or down if I want more or less light from that. And it gives you a lot of freedom because the background lights are just dialed in, and the front light is going to evolve as I change lenses, change location. So I killed all the backlights, and this is what's really cool about the new Canon system, the 600DX RT. I don't have to physically run up there and touch them. I had all those lights in the same group. Let's say they were in group D. I could just turn that group off right on the master flash or the Speedlight transmitter, and they're off. And then I could start adjusting my main light and shaping it. So then once I get that light shaped, I can pop them all back on right from camera. And then you could adjust the light output to your heart's content right from the master device. And I use two Speedlight transmitters. They're the STE3, because I like to have as little on my camera as possible. So I don't have any Speedlights on the camera, but an actual little Speedlight transmitter. For Nikon, it's like the SU80, something like that, I think it is. I don't speak Nikon that well, but they make a Speedlight transmitter. The only difference is in this scenario, you would need some type of radio trigger to communicate with your Speedlights. Now, in my experience for Nikon, the radio popper works seamlessly, where some of the other brands work sometimes. The radio poppers work every time, and it gives you all the functionality and features that your Speedlights are capable of. So as I change and move, we get music going, everything is just dialed in and working very, very well. And I'm not afraid to use higher ISOs or things of that nature. But look at my histogram. These are out of camera. Look at my color. Everything is pretty even. The exposure, everything is pretty even, right? That's the same on the back of the camera as it is in your photo editing or browsing software as it is in Photoshop. So if I would just sometimes rely, when I first started out using digital, on the LCD screen, sometimes I'd have my brightness turned up too far, and all of a sudden I thought the images were really bright, and you download them and they're all underexposed. As I became aware of and mastering the use of the histogram, it didn't matter how bright it was on my screen. I checked that value immediately, and I know. So if the image was overexposed, my histogram's going to go to the right. See it going over to the right? And if it's too dark, while in camera, you'll see it recede the information to the left. So it's useful in knowing and reading your images in camera. And as I said, I'm changing up from a 20mm lens to a 70 to 200. And the lights follow seamlessly. I don't have to change a flash from camera to camera. I have a Speedlight transmitter on each. Trying to do a shoot like this with big strobes, even if they were battery powered, it's a lot more gear than I would physically want to bring in there by myself. I would have to bring an assistant. And if it was powered strobes, you'd need a generator, right, for big lights. With Speedlights, I could walk in here and I could pull this off and shoot all over in this environment to my heart's content. So very fun, painting and creating light. So as we walked around the environment, there was this cave-like stairway that went down from the balcony, and it was just like a concrete bunker. You know, I thought, oh, this is a cool location. We can do something a lot of fun here. So at first I put in my main light all by itself, and I thought, well, that's okay, but I think it could be better. What if we put a strobe, a flash, a Speedlight, down in the bottom of the stairs in this concrete bunker and just aimed it toward the wall and painted the light blue? So when I'm working with gels and I'm painting with light, I tend to make those Speedlights in manual mode. And the reason for that is if I'm shooting, what's my aperture? Let's see, f4 or 5.6, anything you're shooting at, the flash and the camera are going to communicate, and it's going to try and give you 18% gray value, exposure value of that image. So in my experience, more often than not, it washes out the richness of the gel if I'm in ETTL when I'm gelling a light. So by putting it in manual mode, I could dial the light intensity to give me the color tone I want. The more light I pump through it, the more washed out it's going to be. The less light, the richer the color is going to be. So thereby I judge that fact and lock it in manually. I think these are like at a quarter power. So then I thought, well, she needs a hair light. Why don't we light her hair with a red gel? So I had one Speedlight facing away toward the wall, another directly behind her with a red gel, and this one only needed to be, I think, like an 1/8 power. Turn both lights on, and now we could add in the front light. So very quickly, you could change the effect. So you could do portraits, you could do seniors, weddings, you could use this technique on anything that you're going to photograph. Even in here, if we wanted to use an environment and use this white wall, we can photograph it either as high key, or I could put a couple gels on it, and we could change this background in an instant. So once you're dialed in, the front light, the main light, is in ETTL mode. The two back lights are in manual mode, all controlled from camera. I'll use whatever mode it takes to capture the image that I see in my mind's eye. So again, I'll just keep sharing the information, the histogram. Here I've upped the ISO. We went from 320 to 640 because we stepped around the corner. In these images, she was more in the open light where we had a lot of ambient light coming in. And in these images, we stepped around the corner, so all that daylight is out here. This is in complete darkness on this side. But yet the exposure is just beautiful. So this lighting is the exposure from the flash. This is your shutter speed for the ambient light, because I wasn't lighting that area at all. So I truly am an available light photographer. I'll grab all the light that's available to me and combine it and use it together in order to get the shot. So here's where she was standing, and you can see this archway is where all that daylight was coming through. And this is just her being backlit by the ambient light, and then that 7-foot parabolic umbrella in the front. Here you can see I'll change my shutter speed, so we're still at 640. In this image, I'm at a 40th of a second shutter speed, right? See how the background is kind of washed out? Follow me? Now I'm going to jump to 200th of a second, but everything else stayed the same. So just by changing the shutter speed, I brought detail into this area. So shutter speed affects the ambient. The aperture affects the output from the flash. Now you have one neutral, and that is you leave your ISO wherever you had it established. Because as you change the ISO, it changes the other two variables because everything is reciprocal. And I didn't want this background being blown out white, so that's why I increased the shutter speed. So sync speed. Everybody's familiar with sync speed, right? I know this stuff seems basic and fundamentals, and I've covered sports. I covered Michael Jordan's entire career. And one thing he would do before every game, on every floor, is he would practice free throws, he would dribble, he would practice his three-point shots. He wouldn't practice dunking, he wouldn't practice all these crazy acrobatic moves, he would practice his basics. And the reason is if you have your basics down and you are comfortable and they're second nature to you, when it's time for that big shot, you're confident and you'll do what it takes to capture that moment and to capture that image. So you can't practice the basics enough. So sync speed is very basic, but a lot of people still get confused when you start talking high-speed sync or rear curtain sync. Your general flash sync speed is anywhere from a 60th of a second to 300th of a second, I believe is the fastest digital SLR. Now cameras that have a leaf shutter, like Hasselblad's large format cameras where the shutter is in the lens and it closes this way and opens, do not have a sync speed. You could fire a flash, if they fire at 500th of a second, which they used to be, that used to be the fastest, the flash would sync. It's when you got to the curtain that travels from top to bottom or bottom to top, depending on the camera, is where you needed a sync. Because what happens is it actually opens up a slit, travels, exposes across the image sensor, and then shuts. Open, shuts. So with your pop of light at full power, it can only sync at roughly 2/50th of a second. So it opens, closes, the flash pops, you get even illumination, right? The cameras are smart now. They usually will not allow you to photograph above sync speed, but if you use a strobe or a flash, you start getting a dark bar, right? So if I open this up, you can see, here we are at sync speed, under sync speed, 100th of a second. So we have nice, even illumination. We go to 200th of a second with this particular camera and this flash. These are actual studio flashes. Look at that. We start getting a dark band. I'm shooting vertically, so the shutter opens on the left, travels across to the right, and closes. As I increase the shutter speed again, we're at 500th of a second. All of a sudden, half the frame is dark. You go to 1,000th of a second, and it's just a sliver of light you're capturing from the big burst of light that a flash will make. Okay? That's why you need to set it to sync speed. Rear curtain sync is just the opposite. It goes the opposite way. So when you shoot slower than a 30th of a second, you'll start picking up ambient light in the background. What does shutter speed equal?
Sunlight.
Ambient light, right, thank you. So if I'm out in an environment like this and I want to shoot slow, this is a 1/6 of a second so that we could see the lights coming in, aperture 5, and if I move the camera to try and pan with the lights that were there in the street lights, the streaks go across the subject. The reason is, as the shutter opens, the flash fires on the first curtain. And if you move, now the lights in the background are burning in across your subject. Follow me? The flash fired on the first when the curtain opened, thereby exposing for her, freezing her in, and then you're dragging the shutter and the lights are streaked across your subject. When you turn on rear curtain sync, the shutter opens and you can pan, and then the flash fires just before it closes, thereby freezing your subject. That's the difference between first curtain sync, rear curtain sync, and high-speed sync. Everybody's going to go out and try that tonight, right? High-speed sync is the most underutilized feature that you have on Speedlites because you can go outside, as I said today, and make it look like you're out there with a 1,000 watt-second pack and create beautiful images outside. So here's an example of outside with sync speed. This is just straight up fill flash. One flash on a light stand, just off to the camera side, just so we get some modeling. Set your ISO. That's the first thing you want to do, is set your baseline. Because remember, all three of these variables are reciprocal. If you change one, it affects the others. So we're going to set our baseline at 200 ISO. Now, just normal fill flash at 5.6, this is what you get at 2/50th of a second. It's not bad, but you really want that sky to come in, right? Now, if we add on a neutral density filter, we could stay at sync speed. Follow me? So what neutral density filters are sunglasses for your camera. They allow you to cut the ambient light because they vary and they darken the ambient. Thereby, you could stay at sync speed and the flash will fire. Now, with the advantage of going this technique versus high-speed sync is you get the full power of your Speedlights. As you go into high-speed sync, which I'm going to share with you, the flash is actually pulsating light. It's rapid strobe effect that you can't see with your naked eye. So the faster the shutter speed, the harder the flash has to work, thereby the less output you get from it. So if you want to shoot at f8, 11, 16 with outside with a Speedlight to underexpose the sky, get yourself a beautiful Tiffin variable neutral density filter. Thereby you can darken the sky through the use of the filter. That's all I did. So this is same exposure, 250, 5.6, 200 ISO. That's all the flash could give me at full power. Adding on the neutral density filter, we are underexposing the ambient light. Now you could turn the ND filter so much so that you'll kill all the light. It has an 8-stop range, but you could get really creative. The reason you want to light something is this. If we go up and you use a handheld meter and you meter the light falling on your subject, you're exposing for them. You get a nice exposure for the subject. But we lose the sky. We have no information, so you have two choices. Either expose for the subject or expose for the sky. By adding in the light, you could create something that's awesome. Next, we figure out what's the ambient light exposure for the sky. Well, it's around 2,000th of a second at 5.6. Exposing for them is a 1/60th of a second. Exposing for the sky, 2,000th of a second. See, the only thing that's changing is the shutter speed? Everybody follow me? Yeah? Now, high-speed sync. 2,000th of a second shutter speed, we have sky. The flash is firing, we're at 5.6, right? That's about as max as you can get. If you wanted to go beyond 5.6, you'd have to bring your speed lights so close that they would be just on the edge of your frame, just outside the edge of your frame. Because they have to work extremely hard. The faster your shutter speed is, the harder they work. A great, great, great starting point, just like it used to be in the film boxes when we used to shoot film, is 200 ISO. You're going to want to write this down. 200 ISO, 200 to 250, aperture 5.6, at around 2,000 to 2,500th of a second shutter speed. That's going to get you detail in the sky for high-speed sync all the time. All the time. It's like that Sunny 16 rule.
Can you repeat it again?
Sure. So a great starting point for high-speed sync in order to get sky and illuminate your subject is ISO 200 to 250, aperture 5.6, in a 2,000th of a second or 1/2500th of a second. It's a great baseline starting point, and then you can adjust from there. As you can see, we have sky. Now, if we put on the neutral density filter, I'm back to getting the most power out of my speed light, right? So now I can actually go up to full power and shoot f11, f16, f22, because it's not having to pulsate to keep up with the rate of a fast shutter. So you can see I went darker with the neutral density filter, right? So there are times where if I can't get any more out of the flash, of the speed light, this is one speed light. As you asked earlier about ganging up speed lights together, if I put 3 of them on there, then sure, I could get to this effect. But I want to share with you what you can get with one speed light. So if I only had one that you can use off camera, by getting a neutral density filter, you can still create that same effect without having to shoot at f16. You use the filter to cut down the ambient light, right? So all I'm doing now is adjusting the filter. Look at the difference. Just twisting the filter. Make the background darker, let in more ambient light. Now play with the Kelvin, right? So now we're shooting at a cooler Kelvin temperature, right around 3,000, around 2,900, then going up to 8,000 degrees Kelvin. So you could get very creative right in camera, changing the color. See, staying right with the sync speed allows me a quicker recycle time and allows the speed light to work much more efficient. Then taking the neutral density filter almost all the way over, about 6 stops underexposing the ambient, and leaving the Kelvin at around 7,000, right? You could really create a neat effect. And then just tweak it a little bit, and you could get a magazine editorial look with one speed light off-camera flash. No light modifier on the speed light because you're competing against the bright ambient light. It'd be really, really hard to have one speed light and a rapid box pull off the same effect. Now you could do it, but we'd have to have the rapid box. Let's say I'm photographing this gentleman. I'd have to have it like just immediately outside a frame because we're using a lot of energy to shape the light with this rapid box. By using just a bare flash, you get all the energy that the flash is capable of delivering for an effect like this, right? So as I said, you could crank the ND filter so far that you kill all the light. So it's a really useful tool. That's at full 8 stops underexposed. And I happen to use a Tiffin variable ND filter. There's others that are out there, but it's been great. Very nice, very sharp. So I'm going to go kind of quickly through these. There's a lot of them, right? And this is actual shoots, things out in the wild, we'll say, so to speak, and what I do for practice and for fun. All right. And for these, if you have any questions while we're doing it, because this is all real world stuff and on location, please ask. right? Because I don't want you to say, on that image 5 frames ago, how'd you do that, okay? So if somebody has a question about something, just pop up and ask it, and we'll get through it. So what I want to share in these first few is just the diversity you can get with a few Speedlights, right? So again, this is 3 Speedlights, all controlled with different light modifiers in different shapes, and how you could change it up quickly. So as for a lighting diagram, this is with the softbox, the Apollo, on a boom, up high, over him, and one flash behind him, dialed really low, just to give you this rim light, this separation, right? These were all in ETTL mode. Now then you could totally change that up for a completely different look that fast with Speedlights. There's no cables, there's no cords, and once you practice this and become comfortable with them, you're making all your tweaks right from camera. And I'm pretty simple in as much as I like to think left to right. So because you could put Speedlights in different groups, I only start off A, B, C, left to right. So in my mind, if I want this light brighter, I just automatically go to A. If I want this one brighter, I automatically go to B. My background lights are always C and D mode, right? So it becomes seamless, like Michael Jordan practiced his backgrounds, practiced his basics on every floor he played on. I practice on my daughter. I practice on my dog. I annoy the hell out of my wife, Dawn, when she's sitting at the computer. Hey, what does this rapid box thing do? What if it's here? What if it's here? And you know, she's like, stop flashing me, you know? But just great quality of light. And these are all using the Apollo line. So this is the medium. Let me make that bigger. The medium softbox with a grid. By putting a grid, we're actually shaping the light and keeping it from spilling out everywhere. So that was the main. There's 2 Apollo strip lights from the bottom for the fill, and then 1 Speedlight on the background with the flash zoomed in to create this effect, right? So I love looking at magazines, I love looking at movies and things of that nature, so I can actually tell how they did the image. And I like to reverse engineer it, so to speak, so I'll look at the eyes, because the eyes always reveal usually how it was lit from the front or how it was filled in, right? So I didn't have a reflector with me, so that's why I used the 2 strip banks down at the bottom with Speedlights in them. And besides, I never have a good enough assistant who will stand there and hold the reflector where I want it to be, so Speedlights just listen really well. They stay where you put them. They give you the light you want when you want it. This is a bride getting ready in Vegas with 1 rapid box. So this is the rapid box, right? With the beauty dish in it. So it gives it beauty dish quality of light. And if that's where she was, I actually had it on the light stand like this. And I asked her, I said, Gemma, could you just look up into the light, please? This was an ETTL in the suite at the MGM. And I had the groom kept moving a little bit more to the right, a little bit more to the right, until he came into the frame. But I was shooting at f4, so there's no depth of field, right? He's just slightly out of focus. But look at the quality of light on her. That light wasn't in the room, and if you're trying to get a shot like this in available light, there was actually 0 light there. I could have shot at available light. I could have went really high on my ISO and exposed for her, but then he would have been completely overexposed. See, I try and create that sparkle of light and the depth in the image that I'm using. I let the subject kind of dictate to me the light that I'm going to use on them and how I'm going to shape it. I don't walk into every environment and use the same technique. That just comes from practicing. This is just allowing the balcony, I closed the shears, to overexpose her. Now see how milky this edge is? It's the same technique as the corporate shot with the white background. This one I wanted to feel very dreamy, very ethereal. And there's 1 front light here to give me some detail in this area, and that's the halo, the shoot-through umbrella, right? I needed further coverage, so the rapid box is smaller coverage, right? It's very much like a beauty dish quality light. Here, I wanted to light her whole body, so I just had the shoot-through umbrella about right here, pointed straight at her, But I way overexposed the background just to create that dreamy look, right? And then bring the two of them in together. Again, the light's in the same position. Stagger your subjects, because if he's right behind her, he's going to be in the shadow. So I asked him, hey, Vince, could you come forward a little bit, right? So the light kisses him just as well. And you can see the telltale sign. There it is. Wait, let me get this. Here's the rapid box right in her eye, right? One light that I brought, the other light that I'm using is the light coming in from the hotel patio window, and I drew the shears. Very nice light. See, for a guy, I don't mind the light being harder and a little bit more rugged. Just a kiss of light. And that's just feathering the edge, just using the very edge of the halo, the umbrella. Now this starts getting fun, right? So we went outside, bridesmaid in a black dress. We start doing shoots around the pool. So I'm a backlightaholic, I'll admit it. I love backlighting. If you look at all great movies, people always have a separation light because it pops them off the background. It separates them. What does shutter speed equal? Ambient light. Look, we have a sky, right? Nice blue sky. So I'm exposing for the ambient light through the use of my shutter speed, and I'm lighting her with two lights, a bare speed light behind her, and then I actually brought a boom with me with the rapid box on a boom, which is out over her like this. One speed light. Put the battery on it, battery pack, a CPE4 battery pack, so I'm not waiting for it to recycle, right? And we were shooting at sync speed, 2/50th of a second, 4.5 at 320 ISO. I got some blue in my histogram. I should, because I have a blue sky. But everything else is properly exposed, right? Zoom out. Now I'm shooting with the boom because I needed to get the light in front of her out over the water. So I have a boom reaching out to get the light where I need it to be. No one was crazy enough to go in the pool besides myself. But just gorgeous light, right? It's about quality of light. Now, I will lie, tell you that's not the sunlight. I put a quarter cut CTO filter on the back of the flash. I wanted it to look like the sunlight. So I try and light for the practical, meaning you light for the light that's there so it looks very natural instead of trying to make it look obvious. Does it not look like this sunlight coming through is lighting her? Yeah? That's my style. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want. But that's putting a quarter cut CTO on the speed light to warm it up, to give it that late afternoon sunlight. There was no light on her there. That's all my speed light from behind, right? I see this stuff in my mind's eye, and I see it as I walk around. I take mental notes and mental photographs, or my iPhone, I take a lot of pictures of just light. And I think, I could do that. And I file it away, and I use it for inspiration. So here's my rapid box with the beauty dish in it, no diffusion on the front of it, boomed out over the pool, and then the backlight with the CTO. Even this image looks like that's the light reflecting off these gold windows, right? So there's my lighting diagram. Very simple, two light setup, one separation light, and then the rapid box for a main light. So then we did it at night. I said, oh, we got to go back out there at night, because that's just awesome. But for these, I actually did get in the pool, because I wanted that point of view of the reflection. My wife, Dawn, is amazing. This is the file out of camera. And what she does is she goes in and cleans things up to really make the image sing. So that's the image I took in camera. This is the finished file, right? So let me pull the two of them up together. Okay. It's kind of like in the back of the magazine. Can you tell me all the differences?
Water height label is gone.
Yeah, the water height label is gone. The distracting lights are gone, right? And she even took out these distracting reflections from the landscape lighting in the windows, right? So your eye goes immediately to her and not going to any of these distracting elements here. And what was I thought was genius is I was shooting it trying to capture the reflection, but I'm in the water shivering, so I'm making waves. She flipped it down. She's a Photoshop expert, not me. And then she just kept it real enough so that the reflection looks perfect. So I actually got in the pool, got my $10 underwater housing. I knew we were going to do this evening. So we went to PetSmart, bought an aquarium, put the camera in the aquarium, you get the half in, half out effect. So same thing, Dawn went in, took the person out. You're trying to yell, hey, get out of the background. But people are looking at you like, what are you doing in the pool? What's that light? Is this a model shoot? What's going on? Are they famous? So she took the distracting person out of the background, took all these people goofing around out of the background, and then the distracting elements. So I had 2 Speedlights on the side of the pool with blue gels on them to try and paint it in the water. And we still had the rapid box on the boom over the pool. And that's the finished image. And that's me. So in a pinch, got to think on your feet.
You didn't mind getting the water with the dress?
No. Did not mind at all. But you put the aquarium in, you push it partially down in the water, and you could get that water line half in, half out. Just want to be careful you don't flood the aquarium and make sure your insurance is paid. Hey, I take no responsibility if anybody floods their camera. And again, a wireless trigger, so I'm not worried about firing the lights. I can control them all from camera. Just taking and creating.
Previous shot, you weren't looking through the viewfinder.
I was not. Cameras have live view.
Oh, that's right.
Right? I couldn't look through the view. My head wouldn't fit in the aquarium. So you're shooting, at 16, 20 millimeters, something in that range at 5.6. And with live view, you could see it right there. Good. I'm good. I got it where I want. Shoot, shoot, shoot. So it's amazing. I did this photograph of a car, and I thought, oh, cool. Well, this looks nice. Let's light it up. So I wanted to use 5 Speedlights on here to get the light to look where I wanted. So I had one left, one right, feathered the reflection off of the backlight, slowed down the shutter speed to get some ambient, and then I thought, well, let's put a yellow gel underneath the car, to kind of pull out the yellow in the car, turn the headlights on, and then let's paint the building blue, right? And then let's turn them all on, right? So that's the finished shot I did for this guy's car collector. So all using Speedlights and controlled right from camera. No power packs, no assistant, just myself. So there's one light in the car, one light underneath, one on the building with a blue light, one camera left, one way off camera right to skim light the car. All in various modes. Some were in ETTL, some were in manual, some were in automatic. But you could do this shot relatively quickly. You could pull off high key anywhere. If you're in a hotel room, if you're in here with a gray wall, you just basically aim 2 Speedlights at the wall in manual mode, overpower the background, and my front light was in ETTL mode, right? Then if you want to change that white wall to red, throw a gel on it, right? And now you can create something completely different, all through the use of your lighting. This is just your straight up senior in a field, right? Everybody shoots that. You go out, get it, available light, it's nice. But then you bring in some light and bam, you could start creating depth with the image. We're now all of a sudden bringing the light level down in the background, put a hair light on her, separates it, one flash in the foreground, and boom. And here was someone who was mentoring with me, learning how to do it. So we used 2 Speedlights in the foreground, acting as one hair light in the background, giving us that separation, and boom. There was no afternoon shaft of light in the field. There wasn't that quality of light there. You got to go with it. You got to make it happen. That's my journalism excuse when Bob Katalik would say, come back with a picture, don't come back at all. Yeah, I'm sorry that sparkle wasn't there. We're just going to shoot available light. Here's what you get. No. bring a couple speedlights out, create the light you want. An engagement shoot at night, strong backlight, and just a super low little blink of light in the foreground. So they're not totally rimlit, so you can see who they are. But I was lucky enough that we had some mist come in that evening, and it's just like in the movies. They spray that mist in the air before they start filming, and you get the fog, right? No fog machine, you know. I wish I had the canned mist. They probably sell canned haze here. You spray it in front of the flash, and that's the effect you'll get, and hang in the air. But here was mist in the air, right? So one backlight, one front fill. Creating that spotlight effect, shooting wide, but manually zooming in the flash head. They were two opposing baseball team fans. They got engaged, and they wanted this kind of feeling like they got caught in the act. So shooting wide. Creating light when there is no light. Was doing a model comp shoot, and I thought it looked nice if sunlight was coming in from the background. There was no sunlight coming in from the background. Put a couple speedlights outside the window, right? Put a quarter cut CTO on them, warm it up. Wow, that looks really nice, right? Looks very believable. There was no sunlight coming in, right? And then in the foreground, I'm using the Apollo softbox, right? All that shadow, that's all my light, right? You could create any kind of light you see in your imagination. Playing with the Kelvin, shooting towards the tungsten color space to really create a blue sky when it's in a daylight. All kinds of weather. Snowing. I love shooting in the snow, rain, any type of weather, because it makes the images more interesting. Create lens flare, right? You could do anything you like. This is actually self-assigned practicing stuff. When I'm bored, it's January, I'm not shooting much weddings, so this girl needed a few model headshots. I said, well, let's try something else. So I lit the pool. It's actually a hot tub with the blue lights, which gave me the idea for when I went to Vegas and I photographed out there. Let's put the blue lights on the pool. See how practicing comes together, right? Boom the light over, and boom, you have a nice image. It's the same technique I used in Vegas in the pool. Blue gels on the water, one rapid box on a boom overhead. Exact same technique. There's your blue lights, and then adding in some white light, right? On an engagement shoot, wanted something, she's a wedding photographer, so it's always a little bit of fun when you have to photograph another photographer. You kind of have to step it up a little bit more because they know everything. So she wanted something, she said, just out of the box. I said, okay. So this is one of those street tunnels that go underneath the street, kind of like going down into the subway. It's all white tile, so it's just one flash, just at half power, just blasting them, right? And then, of course, you take the safe shot. So this is two lights, one backlight and one front light for fill, right? But you can have that variety and technique right from camera just by playing with your flash output, changing exposure. This is a great example of creating the light when there is none. So we're going to create late afternoon sunlight when there isn't any. The ambient light was 0 outside. This is evening. There's no sunlight. So to create that effect, you shoot in daylight white balance. You put full correct to orange tungsten gels because sunset light is what? Warm, right? Put the blinds down, put 2 speedlights outside the window, one further over this way, one on this side. I raised the blinds behind me because I didn't want the shadows going across her face. Boom. You create the light you want, right? That's what you see in your imagination. So here's kind of a little bit of an evolution of the image. This is nice. I liked it. It worked. Could have stopped there. This is the ambient light. That's exactly the light that was in the environment. But then I thought, what if we put a flash behind her head to give me a little rim light, and then put a flash in the bathroom to give depth to the image, right? And that's the finished shot, is this one. So you could go from no light to that with a little imagination. Big difference, you know? This we shot last spring. Dave and I, we went out on the streets and it was snowing, raining, sleeting right down the street from here. Playing with the, this is the perfect pair. I really love these two light modifiers because they're very versatile, lightweight, they travel with me everywhere. I can create directionality, I could create harder lighting, I could create softer lighting, I could pull them together for using my formals. There's a lot of versatility within these two. And you can just do this right on the street on the fly. No power packs, no cables. Great quality of light, all controlled from camera. The image that they were using for the promo piece for this was shot while we were warming up. So she was in the hotel warming up in the lobby, and I thought, okay, cool, we have these great raindrops on the window. Why don't you sit right on the window seat, come up really close to the window, and then we'll light you. So this is with the Apollo softbox, almost as a beauty dish, up overhead high. The halo, the umbrella, at the bottom of the window, no light in it, just as a fill, just as a reflector. And then the speed light you saw inside that I was going to turn on and off for a hair light. Focusing on the raindrops, turning on the hair light, just the two speed lights from the front because I thought the hair light was a little bit much. And that's the image I really like. And that's where I was shooting. Right? Anywhere offers an opportunity to make a great image. No excuses. I really embrace that. So here's what we had. One flash inside the lobby as a hair light, which you could turn on or off from camera if you choose. Main light was the Apollo, up high and boom down. We just had it up against the window, just tilted kind of downward. The halo was on the light stand down on the bottom, just as a reflector, no light in it at all. So you could have used a reflector if you had someone there to hold it, but you know, there was nobody holding it. It was just there by itself. So you can do this without an assistant, right? And that's where we were photographing, right? It's taking those lemons and making lemonade. You could shoot at available light, or you can bring some light, right? Which is more interesting? Which would an editorial client rather have? Yeah, right? Adding that pop, catching the raindrops in the background, little backlight. One shoot-through umbrella. There's Dave holding it outside the taxi cab, shining it through the window, and creating just this nice quality of light through shaping it. This was a fun shoot. This couple, an engagement shoot, wanted to have a theme shoot, kind of like Mad Men from the 60s. They wanted to have cocktails in this old jazz club in Chicago. It's been around forever. So we did the shoot in there. And this is with the softbox and one backlight. This is with the Apollo, the halo in the front, dialed way down low just for fill. But the backlight is in manual mode at about half power, just skirting the edge of the lens. What's it look like? Looks like sunlight coming in from the window, doesn't it? Like you're in a dark club and the ugly daylight comes streaming in. You know, you're in the bar and it's kind of smoky. By overexposing it and letting it kiss the front of the lens, we start getting lens flare. That's what I saw in my imagination, right? So you can control that. You can make it happen. High-speed flash sync. Same technique as the cookie, the box in the old church. This is in an old clock tower in Italy for an engagement shoot. There was a big wine press wheel when you got in there. And I thought, wouldn't it look cool if there was something on the wall, right? So I just put a speed light behind there, created some shadows on the wall. The main light is the window light, right? Getting the light where you want it. I put a speed light, duct taped it to the dashboard of the Fiat. Because otherwise, when the sunroof is open, it's all top-down lighting and it's not very flattering. So I was in a van with the door up. We're driving through the hills of Tuscany and I'm photographing, boom, just getting that nice fill light right on the dash, illuminating them. Just like in the movies. Engagement shoots. I love shooting engagement shoots. I'm not constricted by the timeline of a wedding. But lighting sets the tone, sets the mood, it directs your eye. These are all lit, every one of them. A lot of fun. People pay you for weddings, if you're in weddings, to get them looking their best. Oftentimes, bounce flash doesn't do it, and oftentimes available light doesn't cut it. Not at the level that I'm playing at. You know, we're at the top of the food chain in terms of what we charge for events. So, you know, it's really allowed us to separate ourselves. So, lighting group shots, I get lots of questions about that. I use the halo, either two halos or a halo and an Apollo, and you create amazing light in the environment, all with Speedlites, right? It only takes a couple seconds to do this stuff. You'll see how rapidly we set this up and how easy it is to control your lights. Take the time to light things, no matter what you shoot, and practice it, and your work is just going to excel, and you're going to get more business because of it. Because so many people today rely on the technology in the camera, meaning it'll shoot at 12,000 gazillion ISO. What do I need to light? It's true. More and more people are going the opposite way, not lighting, because it will shoot at crazy ISOs. You can make a picture in this light, but is it going to be good light? Is the person going to like that image? It's okay, but you light it and it's going to sing and they're going to love it. So let's get set up for some shooting. If you care to, you could go to our blog. Dawn's busy posting a lot on work. It's bobanddawndavis.info. Website is bobanddawndavis.com. Have a African safari coming up. If anybody likes to photograph animals, we're going to Africa in March. I like photographing wildlife to relax. It's different from weddings. You're not on a timeline. They don't need makeup, you know. They just go with it. So that's a lot of fun. And then also have a big tour coming up that B&H has been great with, and they're working with us. So what I'm doing first is I'm establishing a wireless connection between my camera and the laptop. As I'm setting it up, I'm using a Cam Ranger to do that. And that's actually going to take a Wi-Fi signal from the camera and send the files so that we could see them in camera. So I'm going to cut down my ISO to 320. This was at 640, and you could still see we're picking up some ambient light. So I'm going to go 2/50th of a second at 5 for no ambient light. And if I push my depth of field preview button, I get light, right? So that's how you could find out where your light is going to be. So depth of field preview, and we get light, okay? So I'm just going to get the first image in to establish some communication, and then we could talk about evolving the light. So I put my focus mark right on the subject's eyes, because you can move it around inside the camera. And let's see, it's downloading the image. So you can see all the information is here about the image. Manual mode, 2/50th of a second, 5 is the aperture, 320 ISO, one shot, small JPEG, so it comes in. What's my histogram telling you? What? Blue. Why is it blue? And what's the flash? Daylight, right? Right. Good. So I'm going to go from 3,000 degrees Kelvin. We'll start off at 5,800 degrees Kelvin. And now you'll see a difference in the image. All right. So we could see the difference in the image. So we go from something that was blue to something that is daylight. And checking our histogram, where would you say our exposure is? Right on? Too dark? What? Little dark? Little dark? I would agree. So I'm going to go over to flash exposure compensation and tell the flash to give me a little bit more light, because we're in ETTL mode, and watch the white. It's going to go over, okay? All right. Now the image is coming in. You can see it already. Now look at my histogram. See how it shifted? Right? So you could control it right in camera. So we have a nice flesh tone. Everything's looking good, right? So there's anywhere we could go from here. So we can take and create any type of light that we want. So I'm here for you now, right? I want you to be the art director. I want you to throw down the challenge. What is it you want to see? Because I could dream up things all day long, right? And this isn't about me making a pretty picture for you. This is about you walking away with some new knowledge or inspiration that you could go home tonight and try. So I want you to be the art director. So someone tell me, what's a challenge you face? What is it something you'd like to see?
Can you highlight her eyes to like a very cropped in view?
Just her eyes?
Not just her eyes, but just more highlighted as part of her face.
To light up her eyes more?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you want just the eyes to evolve first, right? Okay. So there is no way I could do this without being in the way of the screen. So I'm going to bring it in close, and I'm going to bring it more center over the lens, right? So we're not getting a shot this way. And I could ask Dave to come up here, but I'm not going to, because I don't use an assistant that often. That's what I use the halo for, right? No, I know you will. But what I want to impart with people is what you could do with this lighting kit is it can be a reflector as well. So we're going to do this just as a reflector, right? So I'm going to bring it right here, and this is going to be overhead. Okay, so sure, if you had we do have a reflector here, but if I don't have anybody to stand there and hold it, can I ask you to scooch over one, please? Thank you. Now I'm going to photograph it right here. And you can look straight toward me, Ricky. There you go. Nice, beautiful. Good. Awesome. And you could go vertical to fill the frame. But we've now brought in more quality of light under her chin as a fill. The shadow is softer. The whole light all the way around is softer between the two images. So this one, a little bit harder shadow. Definitely greater fall off because we had it to camera left. And this is more centered over. But the quality of light that's on her, I think, is a great improvement just by adding this fill. It filled in the shadows under her eyes, right? Everything like that. So if I quickly wanted to evolve that, let's grab another Speedlight, right? So we could do this a couple different ways. Is we could go with first just a bare flash, because like I said, what if you just had one light modifier and you could use anything to reflect? You could use a white piece of cardboard. You could use a really nice, we have a 5-way reflector. Those are awesome. But I'm saying you could use anything for that. So if you're just starting out, don't feel like you have to go all in. So now I'm going to set this up as another remote. This is in B group. This is going to be in C group so that I can control the light. And I'm physically going to zoom the flash head. So as I turn, I don't know if you can see it, the zoom, but you'll actually see the flash head moving in there. Yeah. So that's actually shaping the light. So we're going to go all the way with the zoom head to 105. So that's really going to give it a spotlight effect. Because I want to add a little bit of hair light to the one side.
What's the zoom effect in the graphic box? Once you have that set up, wide?
That is set wide. So that's all the way at 20 millimeters so that it will make efficient use of the reflector plate that's in front of it. So we want to spread that light out. So if I bring this here, we will aim it downward. Now what's going to happen right off the bat? Anybody? I don't want to light up my background. Let's get it up a little bit more. So what I'd like to do is to just see my lights. So that's B, that's C. So if I hit the depth of field preview and I squint my eye, I can see where that light is going. Okay, So for just illustrative purposes, we're going to go in and I'm going to turn off the B light. So we can see exactly where that light is going, what its intensity is. I know from experience that that's a bare flash. It's not being shaped. So just in its inherent nature, it's going to give off a lot of light because there's nothing impeding the energy of the light, right? So
That's it on manual.
no, they're all ETTL currently. So we have it coming in. I don't mind that highlight on the side of her face, but if we wanted to, we could just turn it and feather it away. It's not hitting the backdrop, so that's pretty cool. We're getting a little bit of bounce back because it's hitting the reflector, which is fine, bouncing back. Because if I take this away, you're going to see less, which could be a more moody shot. Look at the difference. See how much a reflector kicks back in there, right? Okay. Now we're going to turn the B light on. So they're both in ETTL. For me, this is getting a little bit hot on her hair. So I'm just going to go C. I highlight the C group in flash exposure compensation. I'm going to drop it down -1 just on that light. This is staying neutral. Follow me? That is coming down. So I dropped its exposure value right from the camera, but all in ETTL mode. Okay. Now I'm going to like it back with the reflector, but it's not bad, right? So now, because we have the directionality from one side, we have all this shadow area, which is fine if you like a moody image, but I like where we're going in the separation from her hair, right? So let's play with the reflector since it's here. And even if you didn't, you could take a diffusion sheet, as I said, or anything to reflect light. I just want it to be a soft reflector, so we'll use the white, okay? So would you mind just holding this? No, put him to work. There you go. All right, good. It's gonna look great. Focus right on her eye. Beautiful, thank you. Now I could already see the big difference, look at that. This is all ETTL. Nothing's in manual mode. It's working just great, right? But the reflector made a huge difference to make it flattering for a woman. If it was a guy, well, I wouldn't mind it being a little bit more moody and a little bit more rugged, right? I wouldn't mind that shadows at all. But this is wonderful, right out of camera. So I look at my exposure, information left to right. I like it. I like the colors. I could go anywhere from here, right? So if we wanted to overall keep the settings but lower the light, let's say we wanted it to be a little bit lower, the flash output, I could just go to flash exposure compensation, which is a global adjustment, lowering all lights that are in ETTL down or up. So I'm going to take them down. So we'll go down 2/3 of a stop. And if you could put the reflector in again. Yep. A little bit lower. There you go. Good. Nice. So you could, if you look really closely, you could see an instantaneous pre-flash before the shutter clicks. That's the communication between the two. So if you look at these two images, look at the histogram level, right? Here it's going toward the right side, making it brighter. Here I brought the light level down. Exposure came to the left side, right? I can't, it eliminates that. So it's still a little bit hot. So I'm going to go a little bit lower. 8th power. This is where if you wanted to get it right off the bat, a flash meter would work. There we go. Oh, there we go. Awesome. So now the backlight, we have detail back. I still think it's a little bit hot, so I'm going to come down maybe a third of a stop more. And we're in manual mode now, right? So I'll be able to get frame to frame consistency. It doesn't matter if I'm shooting vertical or horizontal, and I'll get more black in there. So I drop the framing down, have more dark. Now we're not blowing out the highlights, but the front light's working fine. It's an ETTL. So let's do something, like I said, now I want to do something a little bit different. Catch a little bit of flare, right? So since it's manual, I could shoot into that light, right? So watch what happens if I quickly put it in ETTL mode, back, take that same frame, that time it blasted it, because I just switched from manual to ETTL. Sometimes it takes it a frame. So it's still illuminating, but sometimes, in my experience, when I have that ETTL, it's never consistent. Sometimes it causes my front light to shut off. Sometimes it turns off completely, or sometimes it blows it out. So if I'm looking for consistency in my backlighting, I just go manual mode. And I could change that right here on the camera. All right, so I could come over here. So Ricky, turn in your eyes, physically turn a little bit more, and your eyes up toward the light, please. Good. So I went back to the manual setting on the hair light, and have nice light coming from the front. Now this time I asked her to look toward the light because I like a little fall off shadow here. So you want to bring the reflector in? So now what's going to happen is we're going to get more light on her cheek, and that's okay if that's what you're seeking. But I like the modeling effect from before. Go very asymmetrical in the composition, and the lighting will follow. Right? Very nice, very soft shadow, very pleasing. Nice hair light for separation, and the rapid box is giving nice quality of light. So Rick, you want to come out to here, please? What's happening is this light is spilling and illuminating the background, right? Good. And now we'll just re-aim this. Take a look. That should do it. And if you'll hold the fill right there, I got a lot of lens here. I like shooting with a longer lens because it really cleans things up. Very nice. That time I didn't fire anything. Pull my cable out 1 second. There we go. Good. All right. So we're still getting some spill light off the back, up there. So I could zoom the flash head in. But let's do it without the reflector, because I got a feeling that's kicking back a lot of light too. So Ricky, if you'll give me a profile looking toward the light. There you go. So now we have less light on the background because we're kicking a lot back from the reflector. So if I want to control the light and make it more directional, this is not the light modifier I would use, right? So we're going to change this up. So this is really a nice beauty light. It gives it that beauty dish look. So we're going to pop this light modifier off. And you're going to see a big difference in the quality, I shouldn't say quality, but shape of the light. So the Apollo with the grid is going to be the best, but we're going to start off first with just the straight up Apollo, which is a softbox. And by nature, a softbox is directional. Hey Dave, you got a 50-15 in your case? You had one.
There should be one more on the waist stand, one more on the table.
I put it in your case so I didn't lose it. Oh, where your case went. So by nature, this is going to be far more directional. See how it's confined, shaped? That's why it's kind of misleading, that term that a soft box is soft light, when it's actually directional. So it's, in those terms, it's harder light than an umbrella. An umbrella spreads out light, so it's more diffused, hence softer. Because that always confused me when I was like, why is that first thing I wanted was a soft box, it's soft. Yeah, right, I was making all these hard shadows, and I was like, that's not soft. Until you bring it closer to access, right? Then it becomes softer. All right, so we're going to put this guy in. And to keep it even more diffused, I'm going to shine the light, the speed light, into the box to reflect instead of outward. Again, you can use them both ways. So I'm going to the zoom head, and I'm making it as wide as it'll go, which is 20. And I'm going to pull out the 14 millimeter diffusion window. And I'm using the CPE4 battery pack just so we have better recycle time. You don't have to, but it helps. All right, so now we're going to place this right here. And we're lighting with the edge of it, so we're not skimming onto the background. So at first, we're going to shoot it for specularity, no diffusion. Then I want to add the diffusion, then I want to add the grid so you can see how you're shaping the light with this tool. And so you don't have to keep getting back up. I'm just going to reflect it with this. Let me take it first without a reflector. All right, Ricky, if you could look toward the light. There we go. See my modeling light? Right, depth of field preview gives me an idea where my lights are going. Nice. I blasted it. I hit the flash exposure lock button on my camera, so that gives you a pre-flash. And with that, with ETTL, it's reading the entire background. So now that it's clear, take it again, and now we'll get a consistent exposure, right? What am I doing? Still overexposing. Why are you overexposing? Did I change something? Let's see, we got the B head. I got the B head turned up. All right. So I had it set from the last light modifier we had on there. And there we go. So that's what you were thinking of, correct? So always check your settings. See what I did? I had it set from the rapid box, and I didn't change the flash exposure comp on this head. That one we have in manual mode. So by shaping the light with this, we're getting less spill off to the side. So if I ask Ricky to turn toward me, now I'm going to shoot it almost right with the lens. We're going to get more light on the background. Sorry?
Which one do you have?
No, not yet. We'll get that in there next. All right. And here's your inconsistency again showing up with ETTL. Notice my framing between the two. So it's reading more dark, right? And it's feeling that it has to illuminate it, okay? So again, usually when I'm doing weddings and things like that, when I come into a portrait situation, so I don't experience what I'm doing now, I go to manual. The lights aren't moving, I'm not moving, and it doesn't matter what tonality, flesh tone clothing are in the frame or how I frame it. You saw it horizontally, it was fine. Now my next frame vertically will be fine because now it's reading it all vertically, right? Because it takes a frame or two to get everything connected again so it can evaluate the scene properly. So I'm going to go B, manual mode, and I'm guessing it's right around 1/4 power. Oh, sorry. I was just guessing. I don't know for sure if it is or isn't. All right. A little too bright at a quarter power. So I'm going to drop it down. Okay. And bring this back around. Beautiful. I'm having all kinds of technology issues. There we go. So beautiful quality of light. No fill. See the shadow under her nose? That's where I like it. There's a cover when I was coming in today on American Way magazine, and they lit it like this. And you tell me which way you like it. I'm not a fan of the shadow starting to go up. And I was so surprised to see that on the cover of a magazine. It was an NBA player, and they had it lit like that, so the shadow started going upward. It's just, again, a personal preference as to how you like it. I'm a little bit more traditional in that nature. And then we could even tilt this a little bit. So then I'll put the diffusion sheet on next, so you can see exactly what it's going to do. And then we'll put the grid on, so you can see how much control you could have with this. Now I'm relatively close, right, to the lens. Why am I doing that? Not so much to keep it soft, but see where that shadow is going right in here in the crease? Right. Now this is me learning portraiture, and it's me learning from my wife too, is women don't want a big shadow extending down their cheek, right? So I'm trying to keep that shadow short. So now it doesn't matter, horizontal, vertical, do a little asymmetrical composition, right? I'm keeping that shadow tight, but still giving some modeling, so it's not so bad. If I want a little bit more fill without a reflector, I could come right here. Just bring that light around. Excellent. Okay. Versus if I pull the light here, and Ricky looks straight toward me, like, that's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. Very nice, very flattering, nice butterfly shadow under her nose. So Ricky, if you look straight toward me, now this light would be cool for a rugged old man, or some athlete or something like that, or just a moody shot, but you know, it's a bit Rembrandt, and I don't mind Rembrandt lighting, but for weddings, my brides don't appreciate it. So if you just lift your chin up, there you go. So what we want for Rembrandt is we almost have that triangle highlight on her cheek right here. It's almost perfect Rembrandt. So we're getting all these different little lighting effects. A little too high, that's my fault. I should have stood up. So Ricky, drop your head down again a little bit. Sorry. I'll keep you awake by moving you. There we go. Good. Actually should just fill it in. But nice. See how we're getting that triangle here? That's how you know you're getting close to Rembrandt lighting versus I'm more a fan of the butterfly lighting. They call it butterfly because of the shadow under her nose. That I'm more a fan of for women. That's just me. It's just personal. So let's add the diffusion sheet. So what I like, again, about these products is how quick I can change things up. And you could even be creative and say, well, let's do a little specularity and a little diffusion. You don't have to do full, right? But we're going to go full for this shot. Okay. Now I'm going to bring it in right here. There it is. Lost my camera. Thank you. Good. Beautiful. So yeah, it's softer by adding the diffusion sheet in, right? And we're just getting a little illumination on the background. So let me take it again so you can see it. Good. You're right, the computer did go to sleep. But look how beautiful that light is. Now that shadow isn't as hard, and we really are getting that nice, soft wraparound. And we could even bring that light down more if we wanted. So we could even go from here. We could paint the background. What color do you want the background to be? What? Black? Well, I can't make it black light. I don't have a black light. You want it to totally not be illuminated?
Anything you want.
Oh, we could go black. We just move her further away from the background.
Could you put a
Do
blue
red?
gel against it?
What's that?
Blue gel?
You want blue or red? Which one? 50-50. We'll do both, okay? All right, so these are Rogue gels, and they have all kinds of fun colors. So we'll start off finding the blue one. It's right here on top, so we'll go that one first. Now I'm going to leave it in ETTL mode first, and we'll see what it does. So it's got the perfect little dog ears.
How are they called? What's the name of the brand?
This is Rogue Gel Kit, R-O-G-U-E. And they have color correcting gels, and then I'll call them theatrical gels. So this is in D group. And we'll put it right behind. Onto the background. Okay.
So you have that flash at wide, or would you have
It's
it-
at 24. And we could change that too, but I just want to see what it does at 24. It's D, C, and B. So make sure D is on, group D is on. Okay. And we'll see what comes up. What illuminates? Nice.
Is the transparency on the ear that becomes red? Is that something to avoid?
I'm sorry? Oh, the hair light.
The light.
Yeah, sure, I could zoom the
the
flash.
ear?
I gotcha. Yep. It's catching the back of her ear. Yeah. So if you choose to, there's grids you can get by Rogue, and there's a flash bender to create a snoot. So you could totally determine the shape. So let me just zoom the flash head in from 105 to 200. So that'll give us a little bit more of a spotlight effect.
How can you correct it on the computer?
That would be a question for my wife, Dawn. I don't Photoshop, so I guess you could go in and take saturation out a little bit. There we go. All right. Also, the background, for me, the purple, is a little bit washed out. So it's in ETTL mode. So I could, let's see if I could just use flash, the exposure value on group D, and go -1, and see if that makes the color richer. Now we have a nice purple color in the histogram as well. It's a little better. It's a little better. And I want it even richer. But what's going to happen is if I start moving around, that's going to change. So let me take it here. I just lowered it again.
Now, is that background, is that on manual or DP?
No, it's on ETTL, so you can see in our images, I'll pop through them. I've just lowered the flash exposure value in ETTL. So this was 0, flash exposure value on the background. This was -1, and that's -2. That's, I like that, right? I like that one. But if I come up here, I'm betting that exposure value is going to change because it's ETTL. Let's see. A little bit. See how it fluctuated a little bit? And that's another reason when I gel, I'm going to lock it in. So let me just lock that in.
So technically, you can take a white background and color it up with the gel. And
Oh, sure. Oh, definitely.
You're
So-
able to lock the previous flash setting in TTL?
No, because as you move, you are now recomposing the frame, and because it is a constant communication between the pre-flash, every time you move and recompose the image, it's going to give you a slightly different flash output. So you can't lock it
So
in.
you're doing manual.
I'm going to do manual so that we can have it frame to frame consistency locked in.
Wouldn't it be great if it told you what setting it used and then
That
you
would be
set the
great.
manual?
It would be. So if you'd say, look at it like, oh, in that particular image, it gave you 1/16 flash output. That would be awesome. Because then you could just go right there and say, hold it. You know what I mean? That would be awesome. Right to the engineers. Maybe they will do that. Believe me, that's something that, being a Canon Explorer of Light, we get to communicate with the people, the engineers, and we've asked and asked and asked. It's one thing when they came out with the STE3, I'm like, what happened to the flash assist beam? Where's my focus assist beam? They took it away. They took it away. I know, right? They're like, oh, you have 61 focus mark. It'll focus. I'm like, yeah, I photograph people in candlelight and black suits. It's not helping me. Please put it back. So here you could see now we're going to get consistency, and I like that look. And I could come down here, right? I could go vertical, and I'm still going to get the same background feel. It's not going to change. So those are the nuances of ETTL. Now on the fly, when I do my reception lighting, that's the back light is just manual, the front lights are ETTL, and I'm going great. But what I hope you're seeing is with Speedlites, you could go anywhere and create. You don't have to settle for what's there, right? So I'm going to bring the front light, just this guy, up, because I want to go for a little bit brighter on Ricky's face. So that is, just going to take it up, the B light. See what happens if we go 2/3 of a stop. Keep looking back here. Nice. All right, so let's change this up. Let's say,
With your grid.
so let's get a little bit different. Thank you. Really quick, Dave, can I ask you to take this down?
Yep.
All right, and then we're going to put the grid on. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. Hopefully this will work. So what I'm doing now is I put the light outside here as if it's going to be sunlight coming in, right? So turn this way a little bit, Ricky. That way. Good. A little bit more. Cool. That's good. Didn't fire. Where's my flash?
I think it did.
There it is. Good. Good. Okay. Now, see the background? We're painting it red. Okay? Like it's late afternoon sunlight coming in from outside. So now I'm going to take the grid so that we can confine and keep the background kind of warm. It's much warmer there, and you could see it in the histogram. You could actually see it's amber. And the reason it's so amber is why? Because we're in CTO on there, and we're in daylight, white balance, right? So the grid is going to keep the light from spilling all over the wall. There we go. And this just Velcros right in. All right. Now I'm going to bring this around front. And we'll go back to the B light, which is this one, and I'll turn it back on. The light out there is in ETTL mode. So Ricky, you could come over this way a little bit. Turn toward me. There you go. Good. Beautiful. Awesome. So our front light is in daylight balanced. Dig that. And we're painting the background. Doesn't it look like late afternoon sunlight? Right? So you tell me, is it too warm for you? Is it too cool for you? Come on, you guys are the art director. You're on the other end of the line. We're doing this commercial shoot. This is costing money. Where do you want it to go? I'm lost here. Give me some direction. Less warmth. Okay, we're at 5,800 degrees Kelvin. So what if we go down to 48 just to see what happens? All right, there we go. Okay, look at that. We brought the red channel back, right? We're creating shadows. Her flesh tone is starting to look a little too cool now, a little bit too pasty, so I went too much. So let's start at, we'll try it at 53. We'll get this dialed in right the way we want it in camera, right? Awesome. I think she looks good there. I want a little bit more light from the front. But notice with the grid, we're not spilling onto the background, right? And we're getting a nice wraparound, nice shadow, good shape, no reflector. And we could just keep on going with this. Good. Excellent. Nice. Right? Really cool. Excellent. So let's say I wanted to do it a little bit different. So Ricky, come right about here, please. Good. Oh, too much. Back this way. Excellent. So now I'm going to my backlight there, C, and I'm going to take it exposure value +3 all the way up. And this right here, and let's see, what am I going to be? All right. Okay. Now see how we just got a circle? Come on, keep connecting. In there? At +3, it's not giving me the blast of light I was thinking for. So I'm going to go back to C group, and I'm going to go manual mode. And we're going to go up to, let's just start crazy, go full power. There we go. Got much brighter bit of light behind her. Well, there's a lot of interference because it's on small, right? And we could get more light from the background. I'm going to zoom it in because it's all the way 24 wide, and I don't want light going everywhere, so I'm going to go to 200. Technically, I think I would want to match the color temperature of that to this. Well, let's see what happens. And we'll see. I want to shoot up on you. Oh, you're good. Just trying to watch my backgrounds. So a little bit too much on the hair. We'll just bring that back down. But it looks kind of like sun flare. I like that. Get behind this, and that's the problem. I'm coming right into my lens. There we go. I kind of like that. I'm a big fan of flare. And if I hit my depth of field preview, I can see what's what. May have went too soon. I did. I should have waited a second for them to recycle. There we go. Equally nice. Nice. Right? But the front quality of light is really nice. It doesn't look bad. This light here. I thought we'd get more of a color shift, but it's not bad at all. It's matching the front light. Matching the front light really well. So Dave, may you bring that light in really quick? I'll show you what we could do for a high key really quick. And then it's the same process as I shared with you. Can I put this light stand right there? Now, these guys, since they're going to be doing the same thing, I'm going to put them both in the same group and match them up. Basically, just want to light the background, and I'll put both of them in C group. 24 millimeter. I wish that's another thing you could do right from the camera is adjust the zoom. And then we'll have this here. Okay, so the first thing I got to do is find my background. They're both in C. And we're going to put B back into ETTL, but for now I'm going to turn it off. So we just get to see what the background is doing. Right? Oh boy.
That's wise.
Too much light. Remember I said, how do you know when there's too much in the background? The milky white. We don't have a hard edge, right? So that's too much. Okay, good. So we're going to go to C and dial it down. So what I'm looking for is that nice edge. Better. You can see from the small thumbnail. Okay, you're getting wonky again. So there you go. We have a nice image, still a little bit milky, right? So I'm just going to soften it just a bit. I shouldn't say soften it, but cut the light output back just a tad. And now I'm going to turn them off. And I'm going to turn the B light on, which is this one, and make sure we have proper output from there. Okay, really nice. I like the angle. I like the volume of light. Yeah, it is low key. We could run the exposure further over, but when I do that, we're going to start overexposing the blacks. So watch what happens if I do. So because it's in ETTL, I could just take flash exposure up, +1. It's better, but see how we're starting to get light back here and a little bit gray? So I think I like it right in between. Now we're going to turn all the lights on. So going to the C group, on. So we're mixing ETTL and manual. Awesome. Cool. I'll get rid of that horizontal line at the bottom. Very cool. So you could do high key anywhere you like, right? So if we don't want any light, let's say we're doing a portrait shoot of somebody, and we got this high key, and right away you say, well, let's just change it up really quick. So I'm just going to go to my background lights, turn them off. That's it. So I turn them off, get rid of that horizon, and now, because the light falls off all the way to the background here, this goes gray, right? We could even make that black. right? So if I move the light here, I'm going to lower my ISO, and I'm going to up it to f8. So let's see if I will not get any light on the background. See, it's getting darker, the background. So we're controlling how much light from the front is falling to the back. Now we could do the opposite too. So if I raise my ISO, that means more light can reach the background. And if I shoot at, let's say, 3.2 or 2.8, right? Now we're going to get lots of background. I shouldn't say lots, but we'll get more. See, we're getting more. I'll go vertically. So we're getting more light that's reaching into the background, right? By upping the flash output, making it a little bit more sensitive, but without overpowering her. It's playing with the ratio of all the light.
And I would like to.
So this is far more directional, as you saw. It gives you great flexibility in controlling the light, right? So let's take and switch it up to the halo, which is a shoot-through umbrella. And you could get great flexibility out of this. And I'll show you how. Oftentimes, people just point the umbrella straight at the subject. And that's why you get a lot. There we go. So I'm setting it back to default, which is 24 millimeter.
When you're shooting through the umbrella, you zoom as wide as possible.
Not as wide as possible, but it's at 24. You could go wider. It just becomes personal preference, right? So if I want to control where this light goes, I'm going to turn it this way. I want to light with this edge, right? So it's still going to wrap around, okay? Let me put it back. I know. So hold on, let me get this out of the background. I want you guys to walk away and really try different things with your lighting. So what I'm doing is I'm not lighting with the center of this. I'm lighting with this edge. And it's going to, now Ricky, if you'll turn, drop your chin, turn your head. Yep, now bring your eyes back to me, please. And bring your chin a little bit more to me. There you go, beautiful. Thank you. Now what I did is I'm watching where that shadow is going to go, right? We do get far more light reaching the background because this is not as directional as the softbox. So watch, I'm going to feather it even more, okay? There we go. So I've turned it. Come on. See, we're getting less on the background, and you could actually keep doing that so you're lighting with this edge, right? There's no reason why you can't do that. Right? Now these are all at 2.8. So if I go to 4 or 4.5, we're going to get less light reaching the background.
Now, is this a manual or?
No, all ETTL. But because I was at 2.8, a lot of light can reach the background, right? So if I, again, go up to F8, we're going to get less background. But see how, because it does wrap around more, the shadow is much softer. That's why I said if you were going to buy one light modifier today to start this, can't go wrong. It's very forgiving and very nice quality of light. And then if I want to bring that a little bit down, I just use flash exposure comp, right? And you could create all these different, look at that nice, beautiful, soft lighting, right? On the fly in ETTL, you could do this when you're not messing around with a bunch of different lights. Oftentimes, simple is best. One light, one reflector. Gives you greater control, right? But thank you everybody for hanging in there. I really appreciate it.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.